Hey guys, welcome back to Meet with Sumeet. I'm back with another episode with a brand new release with an extremely talented artist we have worked in the past, and he's back with another release. I'm very excited to have him on board. So let's meet him. Let's talk about his journey. Let's talk about the track. Let's talk about the backstory, the creative process, and everything in between. So without a further ado, let's get started. Hey, hi there. How are you doing?
Hello, I'm doing fine. What's up?
I'm good. I'm good. So, I'm really excited to have you back with another record on our label. So,
Always a pleasure.
yeah, really fun to have you on the label and work with you. So, before we go ahead, I like to have a small basic introduction for our family.
Well, what is best? TGRage here. I am a music producer, sound designer who bases his sounds in genres like future bass, melodic dubstep with hints of orchestral music, jazz, 8-bit, and some funk thrown in there sometimes. But mainly it's based on a lot of experimentation because I really like working with music and it's really fun for me. So I've been making music for about 6+ years now, been serious about it for the past 3 years, and have been full time since the beginning of this year. So yeah, that's basically me summed up.
So, we have worked before on another release, and that was like our first release this year, and that was
Yes.
your first release with us as well. So, how was the experience?
Honestly, my experience with First Met was really nice. It was one of the first tracks that I had signed with a label, primarily. Also, it was one of the first times I actually got to get down and dirty with a label and actually work on the contract, which is something I haven't done even after that, because most labels are pretty like firm about what their contract is, how they want to sign it, and what their deadlines are. But working with you, Sumeet, especially, and working with your entire team was really fun because I'm one of those people who really likes to like get involved in the process, and you guys were super happy to have me involved in the process. I remember we went through the contract a bunch of times. We made a bunch of edits. We got
Yeah.
both of our legal teams involved. We got a bunch of good stuff done, and that sounds like a lot more work, but honestly, it was really fun for me because that's the kind of work that I really like doing. And at the end of the day, it was a good track that ended up performing pretty well. So I'm pretty happy with it.
I'm really happy that you had a great experience. And the first track we did was called First Met, and that was the
Yeah.
actually first time we met. So it's a pretty weird coincidence, but like, would you share some story about First Met, how First Met came into being?
The first Mat was one of the tracks that I've been working on because I really liked the vocals that I'd received and I really wanted to do something with them. So First Met was an idea of a project that came together in one day. Because I got the vocals, I was like, okay, I need a bass line to go with this. Made a bass line, and then Splice came through with a really nice pluck sound, which I ended up matching with the bass line. And then I just let my creative process take over and basically made, I would say, about 75% of the entire track in that one day. This is also because I work on music about 13 hours of my day, so it wasn't that hard. But I basically got 75% of the track done in that day, and then just those polishes, flow changes, flow improvements, that stuff. Took me a couple more days, but mainly it was a track that I really enjoyed because it was also slightly different from the tracks that I generally make. And it was a good kind of different, and I'm always open for experiments.
So, how do you want to start it? Do you want to talk about the track, how you came about making the track?
Talk about the track by usually because Fate is one of those tracks that I had made a long time back. So the Fate is a track that I'd made around 3 years back and then never actually finished. But then I really wanted to finish the track, and I was like, yes, that's one of my tracks that I haven't finished. And I really like going back to older projects. So I basically revived that project where there was almost nothing left because I'd changed systems a couple of times. And for any music producer that's listening to this, you know how much of a pain it is to change systems, especially because all of your plugins stop working and all of that stuff happens. But yeah, revived the entire project, had the MIDI files, because almost the entire project is built on MIDI, and other than the drums, everything has been sound designed from scratch. And it was really fun to work on it, and I really enjoyed the tracks. So I was like, yes, I'm going to finish the track. Spent a bunch of time, spent a week or two, finished the track, and then sent it out to labels, and you guys accepted. So, and I was always glad to sign with you guys.
Sounds amazing. It's really fun working with you. So like
Mhm.
how did you get into music? Like how did your music journey start?
My music journey started with my parents, actually, because whenever we were on road trips, we used to listen to a lot of music on the cars. And we just used to have CD players because whenever you're going on hill stations and stuff, you're basically, the radio just misses out and you can't really hear stuff that often. So we just used to have a collection of CDs, which kept on growing towards the point where when we recently moved out of the house, we had a collection of over 250 CDs, which we didn't know what to do for. And they're being repurposed as we speak. But I basically knew all of the songs and all of the CDs because that was stuff that we used to listen to and discuss all the time, especially with my parents also being into music, not as their careers, but as an experience and something that they really enjoy. But after that, I got into school and I started to sing. Once puberty hit, I was like, nope, vocals are done for me. So I switched over to playing the guitar, playing it publicly, performing in places, and the natural sort of progression was recording guitars, and that brought me into the world of recording and production. And then that world just sucked me in and put me on this platform, and that's how I started making music.
That's amazing. So like who inspired you to make music or like what inspired you to make music?
Honestly, just the fun process of making music, and the fact that music is a language that almost everybody in the world understands, doesn't matter if they understand your language or not, which I feel like is one of the things that's really, really unites us. And I feel like just being able to harness that power of being able to communicate with whoever you want in the world is a really, really strong power. And I really love being able to use that almost every single day. Shows teaches me a lot about people that are listening to my track as well, but it also teaches me a lot about what the world situation is right now, because situation and diversity is what gives rise to different kinds of music, and that's literally what I'm there for. I love experimenting with music and just trying to break boundaries whenever there are.
So like what is your music most inspired by?
Primary thing that my music is inspired by is I would say it has to be traveling, because whenever I travel I meet a lot of different people, and I'm a mix of an extrovert and an introvert towards the point where I really like to absorb a lot of information and travel so much, and I really like talking to people, but not all the time. It's one of those things where just conversations that I'm having with friends give me lyric ideas. Sometimes, just when I'm walking through the garden of a hotel, it gives me a new idea. Or if I'm traveling from one place to another, just that journey is so enjoyable to me because it keeps on giving me so many ideas of stuff to make stuff with. And I generally record that stuff on my phone mic, because that's good enough to record your ideas on. And it's good enough to give you an idea of what you had in your head. So that's where most of my inspiration comes from. A lot of my recent tracks that I've been working on, which you guys will be getting to hear soon, actually came from just phone recordings that I did while I was traveling. And when I didn't have anything to do in the current climate of COVID, uh, that really came in handy. Even though there was a huge issue of where I wasn't being able to generate ideas because I wasn't traveling and I wasn't meeting people. Just those recordings and trusting the process really came in handy. So yeah, but that's generally where my inspiration of music comes from, which is meeting new people and experiencing new things.
Well, like we have met in person and like I wouldn't call you an introvert person. Like I don't know why you why you call yourself an introvert. But we
Uh,
really had an absolutely
Introverted
amazing time.
traits. I have sometimes I have days where I just don't want to talk to anyone, and like yesterday was one of those days. But it's just everyone has like dark times. So
Yeah. So how? what would you say your creative process is like?
So I'll just start where I left off with. So I basically, these days, because my creative process is vary quite a lot. These days, whenever I have an idea, I basically just record it on my phone, just the standard recording app. And this isn't like a great phone either. It's just a Nord first generation. And I just record my ideas using the microphone. And whenever I am at the system, I listen to it and I decide, okay, yeah, this is sort of the tempo that I'm going for. Then I start basically putting stuff down, starting with the focus, then the backings, then the melodies, and basically one thing leads to another. Essentially, for me, I've been doing it long enough where it's just a part of my flow of how I know what needs to be there because I just remember sounds a lot more. I don't remember people's names, but I remember sounds of, oh, this sound is in this sound bank of this company, which I downloaded from this place. So it's just one of those things where once you start listening to stuff, you're like, oh, this would sound really cool here. Let's add this here. Oh, with this, just a really gritty, dark bass would sound really cool here. And if it doesn't exist, or if it does exist and I don't remember where it is, I just sound design it myself. It's that simple, which is why I love sound design. It allows you to basically make anything you want.
That's
And
amazing.
it allows me to do that, which is why literally 2 days out of my entire week are not making songs. They're just sound design days where I sit down and over the 13 hours that I spend every day working on music, I sit down and I keep generating sounds and sound design ideas and creating new patches for different stuff, creating new Ableton racks because that's my draw of choice, creating just new stuff. And then I keep storing that so that when I'm working on a new track and I'm like, oh, I need something here, I know exactly what I need because I made it 2 days back. And then I'm able to pull that down and use it, which I think is something that I recommend to a lot of people. And it really, really makes your songs be much better in a less effort sort of way.
That's nice. So, what was the creative process with Fate? Like, what is the backstory of Fate?
Fate is one of my older tracks that I'd abandoned a long time ago. So I think it was around 3 years back that I'd abandoned the project Fate. And then I was going through my backlog of projects because I do that once a year, which takes me about 2 weeks because just in this year, I've made over 85 projects.
Oh, great.
So it takes me a long time to go through my backlog because I often abandon projects. And when I've abandoned projects, I keep going through them, seeing if they have something in them or not, otherwise, continuing to abandon them. Or with tracks like Fate, which I felt had a really good backing towards them, I pull them out of the dust, get everything connected, make sure all the plugins are working, and then basically take the concept of the track and start from scratch, just with the fundamentals of the track. And then I start from scratch. And that's what I did with Fate. I put it out of the dust, I think about 4 months back at this point. Put it out of the dust, decided, okay, this is one of the tracks that I'm going to dust off, revamped the entire thing, completely changed a bunch of things. Some of the elements are still there, just in different sounds. Some of the elements are still there, just as it is, just in a different mix down option. Did the entire mix down, did the entire master, and I was, at the end of the day, really happy with the track. So yeah, that's literally the story behind Fate. It was a track that was abandoned, which I pulled out of the dust and decided I'm going to turn it into another track.
That's amazing. So it's like some like personal story behind Fate, or like it's just inspired by some of your travels.
It's one of those tracks that I made while I was still in school and skipping a class in the library because I used to do that quite a lot. Uh, and I'm okay with saying that because the school knew they just let me get away with it. But yeah, Fate is one of those tracks where I I was basically just rediscovering a bunch of things, and I really like this vocal that I found, which is the vocal that I've used in Fate. And I really wanted to build a song around it. So I came up with a bass line, I came up with drums to match with it. And then I was really, really craving like an 8-bit sound in there. So I made an 8-bit art myself. And when I had that drop loop ready and the verse where the vocal was, I was like, yes, I need to turn this into a song. And then I built the song. But I wasn't really able to finish it with the second drop. So I was like, yeah, this is an abandoned project. And I left it. But then I went back to it and I was like, this is a good project that I had. And I really liked the project. And for me, whenever I started listening to music, I'm like, yeah, okay, this was this music back then. And I remember the entire process, which makes recalling sounds and what they were very easy. So I just pulled everything back up and started again.
Who would you like to collaborate with?
Actually, there's a bunch of people I would love to collaborate with. One of them being Slushy, who is an amazing artist. And I really like his style, and he's one of those people that I just really like the music of, and I would love to collaborate with them. There's also a couple of other artists here and there, but I think the primary artist that I would really love to collaborate with is Slushy. Another big artist that I would love to collaborate with is Rez, because I've
Oh,
actually been to a Rez concert and they're just amazing, and I would really like to collaborate with them.
sounds cool.
But yeah, baby steps.
Sure, sure. If you're given up a chance to open a show for an artist, who would you open that for?
I mean, there's always the dubstep lord himself, Skrillex or Virtual Riot.
Oh yes.
But if I'm being honest, because opening a show for them would be a really, really huge responsibility, which I'm down for. If someone watching this has that option who can do that, I am down for it. You can reach out to Sumeet. He has all of my contact information.
Yeah,
Uh,
totally.
totally. But I would say yes with a blink of an eye, literally. But I would also say someone like Slushy. And yeah, I think the list is a really long list, but I'm just not being able to think of a lot of artist names right now. Because again, I suck with names. You asked me which project I made 2 days back, I'm going to tell you
Yeah.
each and every detail of each and every sample, but I'm really bad with names.
So, like, what is the new track from like some of your favorite artists that is like stuck with you? You know, like there's one song that is always stuck in our head that is just an earworm.
Yeah.
Like, what is that one track that you're like listening to on
So
repeat
I've had a
right now?
bunch of them, and the one that I have right now is by Beach Fossils called Down the Line, which, if you listen to the track, it's a very different genre from what I produce. But Down the Line by Beach Fossils is my track that's stuck in my head so far. My like the track stuck in my head changes every 2 to 3 months, sometimes even longer. So it started with the track called "Go Fuck Yourself" by 2 Feet. Again,
Okay.
amazing artist, someone who I'd love to collaborate with eventually. Uh, so that was the track. That was the first earworm that I had, and then from there it went to Petit Biscuit or Petit Biscuit, depending on how you guys say the name. Their track of called Wide Awake.
Oh.
Another amazing track. Something that I chopped the drop off and used as my ringtone for a long, long time. Because it
Perks of
was like,
being a producer.
yeah, because it was a really, really nice track, and I really liked that. And but then from then I really liked another track called Never Count on Me. But I don't remember the artist. The track is called Never Count on Me. The first drop and the first counter drop is amazing. Can't say the same for the rest of the track, unfortunately, but I really like the first drop and the first counter drop.
Sounds
Yeah.
cool. So like you have been producing and making music for a long time. So you have a pretty good experience in music production. So what is the
Yes.
one message or like one advice you'd give to someone who is like starting out as a music producer right now?
I would say learn the rules, because it is important to know what the rules are before you break them. Uh, but I think a bigger advice than that would be something that I never used to do, is train your instincts, but you should also trust your instincts quite often. Because at the end of the day, I'm one of those people who are addicted to feedback. Uh, Literally, I go through feedback with so many people because I lock my track and then I have a round of feedback where I have a close group of people, which is something really important to have. Doesn't matter what genre they like listening to, doesn't matter if they like you even. Because the more ear you get your track to, the more you know how different it's gonna sound to different people across the world. So thankfully, the group of my 12 people, which is there, they're literally from all across the world, from Australia to uh, Canada to the States to Mexico to Sweden to Norway uh, to Paris, literally, and get them to listen to your track and see whatever they're telling you. Because that's the best feedback you can get. But one of the most important things about feedback that you need to know is feedback is a great tool. At the end of the day, it's still your song.
Okay.
So you don't need to implement all of the feedback, but you need to be honest with yourself and see if you want that feedback to be implemented. At the
Okay.
end of the day, it is still your song, and feedback is a tool that you can really use quite a lot.
You say you like taking feedbacks, correct? So what is the best advice you've received, or like the best feedback you've received from your close group of people?
Actually, goes back to the previous point because I used to doubt myself quite a bit. And the best bit of feedback that I ever received was from my mentor, Bassclub. He basically said after I'd been in sessions with him, he basically said, I'm really liking the sound that you're forming around your name, and I'm really liking the style that you're evolving into. Trust your instincts more. Because for anybody that listens to music, they've been listening to music for so long where our brain knows what sounds nice and what doesn't sound nice.
Yeah, correct.
And trusting that is a really, really important thing. Because if you feel like something sounds nice, that's great. Give it a day, give it 2 days, listen to it again. If it still sounds nice, that means it will sound nice. So, one of the best feedback that I've ever received is trust your instincts. But I would say feedback on the same level to that is listen to more music and use reference tracks. Reference tracks are so important, and reference tracks don't mean you have to copy anything. They're just there as a reference. So a lot of times when I'm mixing or mastering a file, I I find tracks which are similar in sound and sound that I like. I align them up in the project, mute all of them so that I can just solo and toggle between all of them and see what level is this guy keeping their baseline at? What level is them keeping their baseline at? How wide is their stereo field? How short is their stereo field? I think reference tracks is one of the most important feedbacks that I ever received, and that's something I've really started doing to the point where I've started breaking down people's tracks that I really like listening to so that I understand what they're doing, so that I can start implementing that in my own music so that I can start liking my music as well. And it's been going well so far. So that's the
That's
biggest
right.
feedback that I've received, which was trust your instincts and use reference tracks.
So who is this one artist or musician that you admire the most?
I don't have a particular artist that I admire the most because I admire a lot of musical artists for different reasons. Um, I, but yeah, no, there is no singular answer to that question because I can give you multiple answers, like how I admire Marshmello for his style before he went commercialized, which is a great thing to do as an artist. I didn't like the commercialized Marshmello that much. I really admire Deadmau5 for just sticking to his grit and becoming the biggest artist, showing people that it can be done and there is a way to do it. And if you just stick to your guns and keep making music, it happens. I remember I always respect Billie Eilish for her tracks and just the Billie Eilish and Phineas for just the amount of uniqueness that their tracks have, which is something I try to put in my music all the time. Just how their tracks are alive. and they're almost like living entities, and that's something that I really respect. So there isn't a one answer to that question for me. I can go on about a bunch of other artists as well, but it's just I respect a lot of different artists for very different reasons.
That's amazing. So like this is one question that I asked everyone, and like I want to know as well from you as well. Like, are
Sure.
you a bathroom singer?
I have to be straight up honest though, I generally am watching a YouTube video in the shower. But when I'm not doing that, I yes, I often sing in the bathrooms. I sing all the freaking time if you ask my friends, which is why I've started to implement my singing in my tracks, which you guys will be hearing soon-ish.
Ooh.
But yeah, I've
I
started
like the
working on my
future plugin.
voice. Yeah,
I
yeah,
like.
yeah. I have started working on my vocals and voice, and I'm planning to progress that forward quite a lot. But yeah, it just gives me another tool to experiment with. But if you ask my friends, I'm literally doing music all the freaking time because I start hitting random things and I keep finding out that they match, and I make stuff out of that. And I often record that on my phone as well. So it's just a constant thing for me. I don't think it's limited to the bathroom.
So it's just studio on the go, right?
Yeah, pretty much. That's one of the reasons I that's one of the primary reasons I have a love and hate relationship with my laptop, because at the end of the day, if you're on a budget on a laptop, you don't get a lot of power and you have a lot of heating issues. But if you want to make music on the go like I do and travel as much as I do, you need to be on the go. So that's just one of those things where it's a love and hate relationship. Even though I love my laptop a lot, please don't crash. Uh, it's just one of those things where sometimes you have to sacrifice some things to get a benefit
Yeah,
of some other things. Yeah.
yeah. But like, is there something like inspired you in like a particular thing that inspired you to make a particular track? Like, the oftentimes musicians and artists, like this happens with Taylor Swift a lot. She has some Easter eggs in her music that
Yeah.
is like really, really, really inspired from her personal life. Like, has that been the case with you? Like, has something been inspired very personally from something you've experienced over your journey?
I actually don't know how much of this I'm allowed to disclose yet, because there is a very personal track that I'm still figuring out which label to go with. The track is called Glass Showcases, and it's a part of my journey of fighting with body image issues and just a bad mental state in itself. I don't think I'm allowed to talk more than this about it, but it's just I try to put a piece of myself in each and every track, which is why I love implementing ear candy, which is sort of with the alias, and where the alias comes from is a part of my style now, which is that underlying rage of everything, which is that distorted bass that I really like using, which is one of my patches. And it's just, I think I have a piece of myself in each and every music track that I make, but a track where I'm being really vulnerable is a track that's coming out hopefully soonish. Because that's a track where I've done the complete vocals, complete songwriting, and it's a track that I've put a lot of myself into. So I'm really looking forward to it.
So the new track that we are talking about is Fate. So what should the audience and what should the subscribers or the listeners should or your fans should expect from the track?
One of my favorite future-based tracks in my repertoire, and it's almost like an old school future-based track, like future-based tracks used to be, because it's almost like when future bass was born at, at that point, I would say. So expect something close to the origin of future bass with a good chunk of superstars and wobbles in there and a really kick-ass vocal.
Next track, Fate, is a future-based track, and it's coming out on November of 26th.
November 26th.
So yeah, I'll encourage everyone to pre-save the track. It's like already the pre-save campaign is live. I'll encourage everyone to pre-save the track and share the word. And some of you might get a sneak peek and a little preview from TG himself, and share the track, share the love, and have fun.
I guess.
So thank you so much, Tushar. Thank you so much, TG, for
Thank you so much for having me.
sharing your time with us. Thank you so much for describing and like sharing your music journey with us and the story behind Faith. It was really amazing talking to you, and hopefully people love the track too. And
Same here.
hopefully we have so many future tracks on our label, and we continue to work this way because it's really fun working with you. Like it's really
I
really
am
fun.
always down to work with you guys. It's always a pleasant experience. Always down.
Yeah, it's same here. And the experience is amazing. Like we literally had I guess 2 to 3 Zoom calls just to like discuss and contract, and like those
Yes.
those Zoom calls were amazing. It was like so
I
much
mean,
fun.
for this track, we met in person and had a 6 hour meeting, quite literally.
Yeah, that is
So,
amazing as well.
yeah.
So yeah, I look forward to meeting you more often, and
I
yeah,
guess.
have so many future tracks with us. And like I really wish you all the best for all your future projects and future endeavors, and all the best. Just
Thank you so much.